Do you like being in control? Do you sometimes feel out of control? Would you like more freedom in your life? Well, you're in luck because today's episode we're talking about letting go of control and finding freedom, the Stoic paradox. This is the Existential Stoic Podcast. I'm Randy. That's Danny. What's going on, Danny?
Stuff, Randy. We gotta shorten these.
Yeah, all right.
They're
I
getting too
know.
long.
Yeah, well, I mean, most people tune out before we're done with the title.
Yeah, that's true.
Anyways, yeah.
We'll just put the whole thing in the title. You should start doing that.
Absolutely. Now, this is an interesting one because I mean, we were discussing beforehand what this actually means, but I kind of see it clearly how most people like control, at least some semblance of control in their life. But oftentimes, the less control you have, the more freedom you get. People want both control and freedom, and they don't really go hand in hand. It's usually like opposite ends of the scale. And
Well, yeah,
so it's
control
a
usually comes with restrictions, right?
Yeah,
And
so
confinement.
it could be considered a Stoic paradox how letting go of control can actually give you the freedom that you want in life.
Hmm.
So like
Okay.
for example,
I like
people want
that
to
take.
control everything because like every people say, "Oh, I love change," except for when it's bad. But like,
Or
bad changes people don't
inconvenient.
want. But like change is something that we want to control all the time. People do crazy stuff to their face because they want to control the way they look. They do crazy stuff at their job and all types of unethical stuff because they want to control how much money they make. So like people do all this crazy stuff to have control, but in doing so, they lose a lot of freedom because you need to continue to grasp that control, and that's something that's completely out of your control.
Well, I think that, yeah, that's what I think is interesting is this idea that, like hitting on the dichotomy of control, right? This idea that what most people are usually trying to control are things we really can't, which is these things external to us. Like you said, like how much money they're making, right? And taking any means necessary to get there, killing themselves to do it, right? Or like aging, things like that, like
You
these
know what
natural
I think about
processes.
all the time is like this
But
whole concept that we have of like grinding and becoming better in life and making more money and all that stuff. And we have, especially the people who have already made a lot of money, they all say, yeah, if you don't have it, you're just not working enough, you're not grinding enough. But
I
like
know,
we
right?
completely miss out. That could just be a survivorship bias. Like 100% could be. And they're like, no, if you take it away and start over again, I'd do it again. But you can't take it away because they have the connections, they have the experiences, they have all that stuff.
They have
So
all
it's,
of it. Yeah, it
yeah,
doesn't go
so it
away.
could 100% be survivorship bias.
Well, it is. It's also ridiculous because it's also like you're we have a tendency to, when like with things like that, we have a tendency to assume way more responsibility for things than we actually had. And I'm not saying that they didn't, like, that people didn't work hard or didn't do something. They must have done something, right, to have the opportunity and take advantage of it when it came. But
Hmm.
you miss out on all the luck, the just basic like chance that played
Hmm.
into that. And I think that's more than anything most of the time. Because
Hmm.
most people, I think about that a lot, right? Like think of all the other people that were around at the same time as these people that are now billionaires who were doing the same thing, working just as hard, and they didn't make it, right? Because something failed or whatever. So it's yeah. But that's like
Hmm.
that idea of control. We're trying to control the world, trying to control everything, and we lose our freedoms. I think that is an interesting kind of conundrum, right? Because the more we try and control what's outside of us, I think the more we also, it's like you also can easily slip into that other side, which is like victimization, blame and stuff, because you don't have control over these things. You're trying to control them. You can't. And then it's like now you feel even more trapped and less free than ever,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah. But so like on kind of in the same vein, you have to question like, well, do we actually have free will? Do we actually have freedom? And because we can't control anything, but then do we actually have free will or is that stuff going to happen anyways?
That's like a whole other topic.
I
I
know we've done
mean,
episodes on it.
I know. I don't know. I thought about that so much and I don't know if we do. I think it's like I don't know if it's like because I was
You
listening to this
can't
thing the
prove
other
it
day.
one way or
No,
another.
you can't. Well, experientially, we have no proof. There's no proof of freedom experientially, right? There's no way we can verify. The only thing we have is our own self sort of like consciousness or awareness of ourself. And the problem with that is, it's like there's that brain body connection, right? So
Hmm.
it's like the brain thinks it's operating the machine, but there's actually intricate connections between the two influencing each other.
Hmm.
So it's not even clear that that is what we take to be free is actually free. It might just be that, because I think sometimes if we didn't think of ourselves as free or like, we wouldn't assign responsibility. We wouldn't we wouldn't probably be able to act in the world very well or effectively. And I think that's part of it. It's like probably like more what do you call it? Like an evolutionary thing almost than it is actually a
Mm.
reality, maybe.
Yeah. And then when AI came out, like it's just like a really good sentence completion engine. But then I was like, well, isn't that kind of what we are too?
Isn't that what intelligence is, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it is funny when you think about that too. Like there was an interesting article on that talking about, like what is intelligence and is that any different? Right? Like knowing
Hmm.
what comes next and like being able to define things. Yeah.
Hmm.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then I like having control, but oftentimes I don't. And I like having freedom, but oftentimes I don't. And maybe it's
Yeah.
just being content with however things are. Maybe that's more of the key.
Oh, I think freedom sometimes is that, right? It's like letting, because think about it, right? Like when we want to control the outside world or things that are literally outside of our control, like other people, work, whatever, how things play out in the world, like the state of affairs, I think we get caught up in it. But when we let that go, it's like that is freeing because now all you have is, you to worry about in a sense and what you can do. And it's like taking things more in stride, I guess, would be a way to kind of think of it, or as they
Hmm.
come.
Yeah.
And that kind of gives us, because I feel like I feel like I get there sometimes. When I'm in that state, I feel like I'm very happy. And
Mm.
like, you know what I mean? Like when I'm not
Hmm.
trying to control everything around me and I'm not trying to influence all these things, and I realize like what I have power over, it's very freeing to realize that, hey, I can't change that crap. All I can do is do what I'm doing, right?
Hmm.
And, look at like my attitude, my responses to things, how I'm like, what I'm actually physically doing. Everything else I can't do anything about. So it's kind of freeing because it kind of pushes that responsibility or that need, I guess, to be responsible for away from us. And it frees us from that kind of burden.
Hmm. There's an analogy that I was just thinking of, like water, because everybody always and makes analogies with water, like be water, my friend, and everything.
Well,
But so
Dallas love it. It's a
yeah.
great metaphor.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
like I love to watch people swim because most of the time they just look like drowning monkeys. They're like doing so much stuff to stay afloat and they're like gulping up water while doing it. And it's just very entertaining because like when I learned I used to swim like that too until I did a triathlon and then I was like, "Oh my gosh, that just like destroys you if you try it if you don't know how to
Super
swim."
inefficient.
Yeah, so then I learned this total immersion swimming method that's basically all about just floating. And it's like the easiest swimming thing ever because if you just let go of control, like stop trying to control everything about swimming, then you essentially just float and there's no energy involved in swimming.
Oh, like letting the water do the work,
Yeah, kind of like
basically. Yeah.
control. Let the water hold you instead of trying to hold yourself up on the water because you can't.
Well, I think this is like that's very similar like what the Taoists talk about, right? With like the going with the natural flow of the universe versus going against it. Most of us think of control as literally going up the river against the current all the time.
Mm,
And like control is just forcing one leg after the other, right? Pushing against it. When in reality, we're just making our life harder and harder and harder. Because if we turned around and went with the current, right, and let the water just do what it was doing, we're carried with it that way. It's so much easier to move. And I think that's like, yeah, very good analogy with the swimming, right? It's like
yeah.
the idea that the freedom that comes with that, because now we're not worried about trying to push against everything.
Mm,
We're actually acting with it.
I like that. I needed that because I've been pushing against the water a lot the past couple days.
We
Ooh,
all do, you know?
ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's very much too like I think that's very much also like very much socially, learned too, because the way our culture and stuff, this especially the US, that individualism and the idea that you can kind of do anything and you just gotta work hard enough and you just gotta do this and that and all. And it really does kind of screw up your perspective because it makes it seem like you have power over everything. Like you have power over the way the world works. And it's just that you're not doing it right or you're not doing it hard enough. And it really misses like luck and all this other stuff, And I
Well,
think
yeah, I was thinking
it
about
really
that
screws us
too.
up.
Because, I mean, granted, yeah, sure, if you keep at it forever, eventually one of the times it'll turn out. But it's for people to say that, like, if it hasn't worked out yet, it's because of something you did. It's just naive.
Yeah. And it's also just like, also too, at a certain point, like, it's like, is that what you want too? Like, is that what you want for life? Just to keep pushing and pushing and like, like maybe it's something else you need to be doing, right? Maybe you are pushing against the wrong thing. You're working against the current. I mean, I think that's also the other thing is like, if we can, if we can take our step back from trying to control things we have no control over, it also gives us an opportunity to think and maybe figure out what's actually better for us anyway. And so it won't be such a struggle. Because there's the other side of it too. It's like, I think, I mean, there is some truth, right? That like, if you're not doing this stuff, when opportunities come, you can't take advantage of them. Like if you're not, if you're not actively doing things or whatever, have the skills or whatever, that's true. But, I think we also lose sight of a lot of stuff when we're trying to force everything because we're so focused on that stuff. We're not really living our lives. We're not present. We're constantly looking at goals beyond things, being dissatisfied. Yeah, it's hard to live.
Hmm. Yeah, I'm gonna go out on a limb here. I've been listening to this stuff by Neville Goddard, who basically talks about making the assumption that everything is always working out for you, like as your base assumption for all reality, and then eventually the world will do it. And you can't prove otherwise that things wouldn't work out that way. But like
No.
we struggle all the time thinking that it's up to me when it could just not be up to us.
Yeah, could have nothing to do with us in some
Hmm.
cases, right?
Yeah.
It's funny. It's like, oh, it is weird. Like how many times have things happened that are positive, but seemingly randomly?
Or
It's
how
like,
many times do bad things happen that 5, 10 years later you look back and be like, that was really good.
yeah, exactly, right? Because you learned a lesson or it helped you realize something important and
Mhm.
fix something. Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's the other problem, right? Is like the story we tell ourselves too is in retrospect. Like we usually don't know what any of this crap means in the now. It's only later when we look back and we put it in terms of our whole life that we make sense of it. And then those meanings change over time anyway. So it's like really, we can control that. I guess we can control our narrative to some extent, but we can't really control like what's happening or what the future is going to hold for us because we don't know.
Hmm.
But we try really, really hard to do that.
Yeah, because
All
it
the time.
seems like we should. Well, I guess it's more of like our Western way of thinking, where we think we
Well, I
got to
think that's a big
control.
part of it. That's
Yeah.
also infected so many other places too, though. I think that's the other problem, right?
Hmm.
Well, it's like we were saying before we got on too. It's like it's also just like thinking, I think. Consciousness sucks sometimes. It is the problem, right?
Hmm.
Like being aware of all this stuff. Because you're also aware. I think that's the other hard part is like we're also made aware all the time by everything of what we don't have, right? And so of what we could have, of what's out, like, all these like images we see of people's lives curated and like the ultra wealthy and all that crap and celebrities and stuff. It's like we're constantly showing like what you could have if only you did X, Y, or Z or whatever. And it's like, well, that also makes it hard because it feels like even that, you know, yeah. And then people talk about it and they make it seem like it's in their control that they got that and it's really
Hmm.
not. So yeah, it makes it very
Yeah.
catch
You know
22.
what I was thinking about this past week is like the whole concept of like dieting and people thinking that if someone's not a certain weight is because they're not dieting. But it's like for literally the whole entire history of humanity, people were on the verge of emaciated. And then all of
Yeah.
a sudden, in the past 20 years, people have like ballooned up. So it can't be a change of like will. It's not like people had,
Well, it's
insane will
access.
beforehand. Yeah,
Well,
exactly.
it's like, well, back then, dude, yeah, winters were probably people, almost everybody starved, right? Because like
Hmm.
stuff happens. And it's funny. Well, that's also why, you look at the
You
old
boil
paintings,
your
right?
shoes just because you're
Yeah,
starving.
literally. You look at those old paintings, and that's why all like beauty was defined by, wealth. So it was the
Yeah.
heavier people because that was the people who had the money.
Hmm.
And it's kind of interesting. And it's also probably was healthy looking, right? Because something happened, you had excess, you could like make it through.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah. And that's the other
Crazy.
problem too, that we change things so much in the world, like in the human world, all the time,
Hmm.
and very quickly often because of technology, our world changes, but we don't change that fast.
The wetware is the
So
same for the past
yeah. So
forever.
adjusting to that, adapting to that takes time. And I think that's the other thing, right? We have all this stuff that like supposedly makes life easier, but also robs us of our freedom as well.
Yeah.
Like screens, computers,
Dude,
yeah.
I got stuck in kind of like overwhelm again the past couple days because I just got so many things that I'm up to. It happens to me all the time. It's so easy to be up to so many things at once and be making progress in all of them, but feel like you're just spinning your wheels.
Well, because if you're doing too much, yeah, you're never really getting that far in anything, right? Or you're not seeing
Hmm.
the type of progress I guess you want or whatever. It's hard because it's like, yeah, you have hobbies and stuff and everything else, and it's like you want to do all these things and
Hmm.
time and yeah,
Yeah.
responsibilities and stuff. It's very difficult.
Hmm.
But that's just it, right? When you try to control things, I think you create more responsibilities that you tie yourself into, and then you don't have time for the other stuff. Well,
Wow. All right. Well, anything else?
no,
There you have it.
very, very
Control and
depressing in a
freedom
way.
solved.
Yeah.
Never
Let go.
again.
Just
Never
let go.
again. Yeah. Yep. That's the Buddhist way, the art of non-clinging. Yeah.
What's
But
the point
anyways,
anyway?
yeah, what's the point? We're all gonna die. Even the people who want to extend their life forever and do all types of crazy things, they're gonna die too. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, I think Marcus Aurelius said something like that, where he's like, "What's the point of living 3 days or 300?" For like, especially he was talking about those guys who would have like crazy injuries from war. They would be gored by a bull or something like that. And he's like, what does it
Oh
matter?
God, yeah.
Because we're all just going to die anyways. But
We do. Yeah.
yeah,
It's
that's
crazy.
besides the point. This is the Existential Stoic Podcast. Until next time, I'm Randy. That's Danny. I'll see you later, Danny.
Later, Andy.